why do you have so many toxic relationships, but I don't? Or why do you have toxic relationships and all these other people don't? It's not just by accident. It's something your subconscious is going through and creating. So when we went into her subconscious mind, what we discovered is when she was 4 years old, she had the realization that she helped her dad overcome his anger, right? A lot of times little girls, they soften up their dad. And again, she's not knowing this at a conscious level. She's in hypnosis.
Welcome to episode 507 of the Man That Can Project podcast. I'm your host, Lachlan Stuart. And today we are diving deep into the mind's hidden barrier that could be holding you back from your full potential. We're joined by Dom, the hypnotist, a renowned hypnotist who's transformed lives by helping people break through their limiting beliefs for their businesses and personal barriers. We'll be debunking myths about hypnosis, exploring the power of the subconscious reprogramming, which is very interesting, and revealing how you can overcome mindset blocks to achieve unprecedented success. If you've ever felt stuck or limited in your journey to success, this episode is going to be a must listen. And remember, if you're tuning in for the first time, subscribe, and if you get value from it, leave a rating and review. Buckle up and let's get ready to a mind-opening conversation. The Man That Can Project podcast, a podcast empowering career-driven men to live more fulfilling lives. We are here to challenge your beliefs, redefine success, and talk about the important stuff in a relatable way. Don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. My name's Lachlan Stuart. Let's get into it. Dom, thanks for coming on, mate. It's an absolute pleasure. As I mentioned, I went down the rabbit hole of your YouTube earlier, or not earlier, last week, in preparation for this, and I love what you do.
Yeah, man. No, thanks for having me, and I'm excited to be here because exactly what you talk about is literally what my whole entire life's purpose is dedicated to. And I've also trained other people within my team who also do the same thing. So literally my soul's purpose and the people that are on my team, we all have that same exact mission, which is what you just said, diving deep, figuring out what the blocks are, and then removing them so that people can get to the next level in their lives.
And for a lot of new listeners, they may not have heard me speak about the fact I actually did my course in learning to be a hypnotherapist. It was something that I just wanted to do personally to experience it because much of what we're going to go into in this episode, I needed help with. And I am a massive believer, and I still use a lot of the tools that I learned 5 years ago in my life today, and I'm a massive believer in it. So, Dom, many of our listeners are ambitious men, and they're looking to unlock their full potential and maximize their lives, right? But they often encounter invisible barriers that hold them back, or those limiting beliefs. So as a hypnotist, you've helped people overcome these barriers and achieve breakthroughs in their businesses and in their lives. Can you start by sharing, I guess, an instant where you helped someone overcome a significant mindset block that was holding them back, and what was the transformation that they experienced as a result?
Yeah, so I'll actually share with you a story that is still one of the most mind-altering, paradigm-shifting experiences that I've ever had. And when I share this story, there's going to be some people that think I'm lying or it's not possible or this isn't true. And there's going to be other people that go, wow, maybe there's something to this. And there's going to be other people who go, that makes 100% sense. And the story I'm going to share with you is, again, it's one where if somebody would have told me this a year, 2 years, 5 years ago, I would have thought they were crazy. So if you are one of those people, I get it. All right. So I'll kind of take you back. It was the NFL season of 2021. So NFL, for those of you, you guys are in Australia, NFL is the National Football League. It's the Super Bowl. It's kind of like, I guess, your guys' form of rugby. So it's the biggest sport in America. And I was working with one of my clients, and in the beginning of the season, he was like a third or fourth stringer. And as we were progressing throughout the season, he finally got his first start. And what we would do is we'd get together once a week and I would hypnotize him and I would put the plays of the other team in a hypnosis recording. So in other words, in the NFL, you play a new team every week and they got to study the playbook and they got to remember it. So when the team comes out, they know what to do. So being that this was his first start, we got together for our weekly call and he goes, Dom, I'm obviously nervous. This is my first start. And if there's anything you haven't done yet, if there's any tricks up your sleeve, Now is the time to do it. Right. So what I did this time is I told him, I said, I'm going to create the sleep hypnosis. But what I want you to do this time is I want you to listen to it throughout the night. So just loop it for 8 hours. So it's a 30-minute recording. You're going to listen to it 16 times a night for 4 days in a row. Now, up until this point, I wasn't a huge believer in sleep hypnosis just because I thought, like, you're sleeping, right? How can your mind even accept it? It doesn't make any sense. And for those of you who don't know what a sleep hypnosis is, essentially you put an affirmation on a recording and you listen to it in your sleep and it goes into your subconscious. So although I wasn't a believer, I knew it wouldn't hurt him. So I figured, let's give it a shot, right? So after that game on Sunday, he messaged me and he said, Dom, I have never been more in tune with what the other team was going to do. Not in high school, not in college. And he said, it was like I knew what they were going to do before they did it. Right. So for me, this was profound because now I'm like, all right, maybe there is something to this whole sleep hypnosis. So a couple of weeks went by and the thought kept playing in my mind. I'm like, okay, there's got to be something I can do with the sleep hypnosis. There's got to be something to this. So I actually found a free recording on YouTube around creating abundance financially, right? About attracting in wealth and all this kind of stuff. And the video had millions of views and thousands of comments. And as I started going through the comments, there was literally just hundreds of people saying, oh my God, I listened to this and I made $2,000 the next day, $10,000 in the week, and this and this. And at first I was thinking, like, this has to be fake. Like, there's no way this many people, but it was endless. I just kept going and scrolling. I'm like, there's no way somebody could like fake thousands of these messages. And I was going deep. I look at their profile and they were real people. So I figured, all right, I got nothing to lose. I want to be sleeping anyway. So I started listening to the recording on a Tuesday. And by Sunday, we had our biggest week ever by about 50%. And clients were just coming out of the woodworks. And so this was amazing. I was like, wow, it worked, right? But the problem is that 50% at the time, there was just 3 people on my team. Now we have 17, so I can handle more. But back then I couldn't handle that much flow. So 50% more clients is 50% more work, right? Yeah. So I actually stopped listening to the recording because it was too effective. And that was that. Well, maybe, I don't know, weeks or months went by. And I thought to myself, I was like, okay, how can I create a sleep hypnosis? But instead of just creating large amounts of abundance, create large amounts of abundance and while working the same or less, right? Like, let's make it to where I can create more with less effort. So I created this recording. I put it on my YouTube. I gave it to my Instagram followers and stuff like that. And within a few days, I was getting a ton of great feedback. You know, people were telling me they're closing deals, their calendars are filling up, people are getting raises. And then other people were saying that they couldn't understand the recording and it sounded like it was corrupted. So being that this was my first recording, I thought I messed it up, or I don't know. I thought I messed it up on the editing process. So I just left it at that. Well, a few months after that, I had the thought of, hey, I'm going to make this sleep hypnosis because I was having more and more feedback as time was going on. People were saying, wow, this is great. And then other people said they couldn't hear it. So I started, every client that came on board, I made this a part of our program, kind of like homework, right? So they come on board and I work with business owners and salespeople. So this is right up their alley. They want to make more money. So I started giving it to clients, same thing, wow, this is great. Deals are closing, blah, blah, blah. And I'll never forget one client, she texted me one day and she goes, Dom, I think I'm going crazy. I said, what's going on? And she said, I could hear the recording for the first 3-4 days, but now it sounds like it's in a different language. It sounds like it's gibberish. And I said, I've heard this before. Send me a screenshot and I'll look at it. So she sends me a screenshot. I play it and it's normal. I can hear it fine. Well, then about an hour later, she messaged me and go, oh my God, you're not going to believe this. I said, what? And she goes, I was playing your hypnosis recording. I was showing it to my partner. We're in the same exact room. We're listening to the same exact thing. And she can hear it perfectly fine, but I can't understand it. And it sounds like it's in a different language. So I'm reading this and I'm thinking like, what? Like, what is this even? I don't understand. Like, I'm like, no way this is possible, right? So I said, okay, let's talk about it in our session next week. So we jump on our Zoom. I do all my work through Zoom, and I got to see it for myself. So I, share the screen. I hit the button, hit play, and sure enough, I can hear it as clear as day, and she cannot understand a word. She can read the caption on the screen, but it's not processing in her mind auditorily. So I didn't know what to do. I just went with my intuition and I said, well, her mind must be blocking it out because she's afraid. So the affirmation is this: large sums of passive money come to me easily and quickly from multiple sources on a consistent basis, and it's in the best good of all. I can keep, save, invest the money, or give the money away. Whatever I decide to do, I could do it happily. So when we went through the recording, basically what I did was I broke down each individual little statement. So the first one is large sums of passive money come to me, right? So I had her close her eyes. We put her in hypnosis and I asked her, we said, hey, subconscious mind, why are you not letting me hear large sums of passive money? And she said something, I forget, but I think she was afraid she couldn't handle large amounts of success at once, right? And then the next part, and then she had all these weird fears and limiting beliefs that when I become successful, my friends and family will get jealous of me, and I'll lose my friends and family. When I become successful, I won't be happy. I have to work really hard. It can't come quickly. It can't come easily. So one by one, we start removing all the limiting beliefs from her subconscious mind. 45 minutes later, I hit the recording and she can hear it as clear as day. Now, that's not even the craziest part. It gets a little bit crazier. So I do a group where I talk to, about 50, 60 people every Monday. And I do different, talk about different things, mindset stuff, business stuff, whatever. And I shared this with my group. I said, man, the craziest thing happened to me last week, that told the whole story. And a couple more people said, no, man, I had the same thing happen to me. So I went through and sure enough, same thing. Well, the next week I had clients create their own affirmation on this thing. It's called the Parrot app, where they talk into the app and they come up with their own stuff. It's not me. I have nothing to do with it. They create their own affirmation. They talk with their own voice and they play it, and it just loops and it loops and it loops. And within a week of doing that, people could not understand their own words with their own voice. It was blocking it from their minds. Yes. So since then, we were talking before this, I have an app where you can download the money magnetism sleep hypnosis for free. And I've literally had hundreds of people. This isn't just like, oh, it's a couple handful of people. No, hundreds of people have experienced this phenomena where they start listening to it. And every single time, people go, nah, it's not going to happen to me. Nah, it's not going to happen to me. And I would say probably 50% of the people that listen to it for at least, a week or two, it starts to distort on them. So talk about mental blocks, man.
It's so powerful because there are a lot of men, especially in the business space and the high performing space, Dom, who may be thinking to themselves, I don't need a coach, or I have great mental resilience, or I have a goal and a plan and I'm doing it, but they still never hit it, right? Mm-hmm. And that's where it sort of ties into what you're speaking about there. A lot of us can have an idea of what we want. We can fuel ourselves with the internal, I guess, prompts or however we want to talk about it. But there are those subconscious or limiting beliefs that do hold us back. It's like the external goal that we want. I want a lot of money and I want this to happen in my life. But internally, it's like, I'm not worthy of success. So there's that clash. Mm-hmm. And so many people don't recognize that. And what you just touched on there is exactly that process. And I've, as you were talking about hypnosis and some of those things, I'm like, man, this reminds me of when I first came across it, and I was like, this stuff is just bullshit. Like, and then I can't even remember what prompted me to do it. I think I was just looking for something more in my own journey because I wanted to be better, and I think I had a lot of setbacks. And so I was like, I'll try anything at this point. And when I got in there, you mentioned, Dom, as well, there's going to be people who are open to it, people who are just like, that makes so much sense. And then there's people who's like, that's just BS. Mm-hmm. And I was the guy who was like, this is BS. And when I walked out 4 days later, I was like, I need more of that. Like,
yeah.
need more of that. It transformed my life.
Yeah.
And for those people, the process that you go through where you're helping them identify reasons why they can't hear that, those limiting beliefs, how do you take them from being stuck to showing them
Yeah.
that
Well,
it
the
is
first
possible for
step,
them?
yeah, the first step we do is we identify what those limiting beliefs are. So I mentioned I have the free thing on my app, right? If people
Yep.
upgrade it, it's $44 membership, and it actually walks them through step by step. There's a list of the most common fears. I've worked with literally by now 2,000 and some change people one-on-one,
Yeah.
not including all the people that, my team services and everything. So I've collected a lot of data. That's the point. But what you do is you go through and you talk to your subconscious mind and basically go, do I have this fear? Do I have this belief, right? Like, do I believe I'm not worthy? No, I'm worthy of it. Okay, cool. Yes. That one's fine. I don't need that one. Do I feel guilty for being successful? Oh, actually I do. You want to hear something crazy? Want to hear something crazy?
Yeah. Feel me.
Speaking of this, I went to dinner last night with this very successful, with the client, and then this very successful restaurateur. He owns restaurants all over the world. And we were talking, and he's like, "Oh man, you're a hypnotist. I've been thinking about doing this." Oh, okay, cool. And we're talking, whatever. And at some point, he goes, "Man, I'm in so much pain." He wasn't telling; he was just talking like, "Man, I can't work out. I'm in so much pain." And I said, "Hey, man, you want to get rid of your pain right now?" And he was kind of like, what do you mean? What, I don't understand. How are we going to do that here at the restaurant? So I say, yeah, let's do it. It's in your subconscious mind and this and that. So he closes his eyes and we started going through our little process. And what we discovered is his family had this tragic accident when he was a kid, and he lost his, younger brother, and he died, and he survived, and all his family survived except his younger brother. And my client went on to be this super successful restaurateur, and all of his family all got illnesses, arthritis and cancer and everything else, except him. So he wasn't conscious of this. This was in his subconscious mind. He believed that number one, he felt guilty for being so successful and not having any issues. And so in order for him to feel like he could still stay connected to his family, he created this pain so that he could go, "Hey guys, look, my life isn't all sunshine and rainbows. I'm just like you. I have pain just like you." And in a matter of 10 minutes, we discover that he has this belief. We let it go. His pain goes from a 10 out of 10 to a 2 out of 10 in 10 minutes. And so that's the power of the subconscious. So so you go to circle back to what we're talking about.
That's right.
There's a list of things you go through. You bring it to the surface, figure out which ones you have, and then you go deeper and to figure out where is it coming from. So our limiting beliefs and fears and guilt and all that either happened to us when we're really young, 0 to 7, those impressionable years, whatever it may be, and the seed gets planted, right? And over time, that seed grows into a giant weed, and then it's finally like, okay, we got to do something about this. It's either that, or, believe it or not, much of our trauma is during our mother's pregnancy. Experiences that she have go into our children or to her children, or it could even be before you're born. Your parents, your grandparents, your great-grandparents, their traumas and their memories will get passed down to you, and you won't even realize it, but you'll unconsciously live out these scenarios in your life because of the genetic trauma. So through the process of hypnosis, you can identify where all that stuff comes. And like I mentioned, I've worked with over 2,000 people. I've never, when I say never, I mean 0. I've never had one person that we went into a genetic memory or whatever come back and after they've asked their family, come back and say it was wrong. Every single time, it's 100 up until this point. Maybe it'll change in the future. I don't know. It works every single time. So it's very, very fascinating stuff.
It's mind-blowing. And I remember when I was learning a lot of that stuff, and they're like, yeah, you can have it from generational trauma and whatever. And I was just like, it's not possible. This is just sounding even crazier than when I first walked into the room. And then I had it happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I would consider myself I'm definitely spiritual, but when I look at it from that religion or God or all that sort of stuff, I'm just like, I believe in something else, but I'm not sure what it is. But in that moment when it happened, that was the first thought that came to me was, I had one when I was looking at guilt, was for being born, and that was from my mum, and I was like, where the hell did that come from? I've never thought about this once in my
Exactly
life.
right. Mm-hmm.
And then I had a generational one, and I was like, now I feel like I'm insane. But then we went through the process of releasing that and understanding that, and it literally, you feel like you're just taking off a weight vest. And even to this day, I don't talk about it much because I still find it hard to explain. And it's like, you got to try it to really be able to understand it. But when you were saying that, then I'm like, a lot of people are going to be going, this dude is nuts.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I can speak from experience. I thought the exact same thing, and I experienced it, and it was literally game changing for me.
It's the best feeling in the world. And, you know, when it comes to business, right? Because you mentioned a lot of your listeners are business guys or people that want to level up. And for me, 95% of my business hangups came from my grandfather, because my grandfather was a roofer and he did okay, but he never really like broke through to that next level of having a giant company and do this whole thing. And so when I get stuck in my business, I immediately go into my subconscious. I'm like, hey, where is this coming from? And like I said, 90+% of the time, it's something he was going through, right? Whether it's hiring, building teams, marketing, sales, fulfillment, like everything. As a matter of fact, this logo that you see, these, Nike shirts that I have, this logo back here stemmed from me releasing some BS from my grandpa, because my grandpa had just like a ragtag, beat up truck, his crew's all mismatched. And I was like, hey, how did we come across the people like, hey, we're the real deal. We're professionals. We provide white glove service. And I had the thought of like, okay, time to clean it up, time to have matching everything. And so it's just little tweaks like that over the years that I've been able to remove, which has allowed me to accelerate my success rather than carrying it around with me without even realizing it. You know what I mean?
Definitely. And is that where you sort of really hone in on the subconscious reprogramming? Because for a lot of us, many people are working outside in. We're trying to prove to ourselves that we're worthy by achieving a promotion or have a certain looking partner or driving a nice sort of car. And we're like, if I get that, I'll feel good about myself. If I achieve this, this person will like me, as opposed to flipping the script and going, it starts with myself. I need to look at those limiting beliefs that you touched on, or the stuff around your grandfather, to work out, because then you can project a better version of yourself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what was the question there? You hypnotized me. Oh, you put me in a trance.
I'm doing the work. No, but is that sort of, I guess, an understanding of how or where you drive it home with this subconscious reprogramming? Is that what
yes.
that
Okay.
process looks like for people?
Yes. Yeah. So here's the thing about the outside as well, is everything that's going on outside of us is an unconscious projection, in the sense of the people that we surround ourselves with, the people in our lives, how people treat us, just everything is something that's going on internally. And so much so to where, I had a client one time, and she is a female woman, and she, we came to me, she came to me for business stuff. But one thing she kept saying was, man, all these toxic people in my life, all these toxic people in my life, all these. So I know that it's not the people, it's her. It's something going on in her subconscious that's like, why do you have so many toxic relationships, but I don't? Or why do you have toxic relationships and all these other people don't? It's not just by accident. It's something your subconscious is going through and creating. So when we went into her subconscious mind, what we discovered is when she was 4 years old, she had the realization that she helped her dad overcome his anger, right? A lot of times little girls, they soften up their dad. And again, she's not knowing this at a conscious level. She's in hypnosis. And so as a 4-year-old girl, she felt this sense of accomplishment, like, wow, I was able to help my dad overcome his anger. So from that point forward, she didn't realize it. Her life mission now became, I got to help people overcome their anger. Well, angry people are usually toxic people. So literally we go, she's like, oh my God, I can't believe I've been doing this. Right after that, within 1 week, her boyfriend she was with for 6 years, who was toxic, they ended their relationship. Her business partner she was in business with ended their business, and it was a better thing for her. And she had another relationship with a family member. I think it was her cousin. All these people just like poof, they just disappeared out of her life. by switching that one thing. So that's how powerful changing the inside is. And then the outside changes rather than trying to change the outside and still having the same stuff on the inside.
What would be some common, I guess, resistance people that you've worked with would experience in that space where they do have that aha moment and they're like, it does fall back on me. I need to make the changes. Is there a few roadblocks there that you help people work through as well?
Yeah. So the foundation of what I do and any coach really for this matter is a universal principle, what we call cause and effect. So cause and effect is simply this. In life, if you're at cause, you're saying, I caused this. I'm responsible. This is because of me. And when I say everything, I literally mean everything. Everything is your fault. Extreme ownership, radical responsibility. When you're at the effect, it's always his fault, her fault, the government's fault, the economy's fault, blah, 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 blah. And the thing with being at the effect is that you lose personal power to change. You're saying the reason why my life is this way is because of this outside circumstance. So I'll give you an example. I had a client who I was explaining this to, and you hear this is like such a buzzword. It bugs the hell out of me. Narcissist. I'm dating a narcissist. And then a narcissist is like, it's you. Yes, that person might be that way, but all your boyfriends are narcissistic or all your girlfriends are narcissistic. You see the pattern? Everywhere you go, there you are. Anyways, she's going on. She's like, my ex-husband manipulates me all the time. He's just such a good manipulator. You don't understand him, Dom. He just manipulates me, blah, blah, blah. Now, is she at cause or is she at the effect? She's at the effect.
Yeah.
She's saying the reason why my life sucks is because of him. And I stopped there and I said, is it that he's a good manipulator or are you just easily manipulated? Right? Because there's a difference. One is, it's his fault. I'm helpless. I'm a victim. There's nothing I can do. The other one is, it's my fault. I'm allowing this to happen. Now, guess what? When she made that switch in her mind, well, guess what happened to the manipulation? No more. Because like I said, she took responsibility.
Do you feel that people need to be at a point in their life where they're ready to accept that as well? Because there's definitely, I've got a few people that spring to mind in my life where I've worked with them or they're even mates and they keep going through that same pattern. And I've had conversations around them like, dude, come on, like, let's change it. But they just keep missing the point. And I think I did that in my own life for a number of years as well because I did find it hard for myself to accept responsibility because I had to almost look at myself and go, dude, you're not as good as you think you are. You got some work to do.
Right. Yes. And I'll tell you, for me, because I explained it incorrectly at first, and it almost came off as I was attacking people and like, hey, basically saying like, quit being a victim. But I wouldn't say that, but the way I said it would come across that way. So now the way that I explain it to people, because like here, this is perfect right here. What you just said. You ever find people that it's hard to accept that and everything? So me as a hypnotherapist, as a coach, I take responsibility. So if somebody's not accepting something, I don't go, hey, they're not accepting it. I go, I'm messing up the communication. I'm not, you see what I'm saying? Like, wait, how do I communicate in a way to where this person will accept it? And that is being at cause, taking responsibility.
That's powerful.
You see what I'm saying? So it's everything. Now, even though I know this, don't get me wrong. Like sometimes I'll be like, I just did the blame thing. I just did the victim thing. I always go, it's not them, it's me. How do I communicate in a way to where they'll accept it? And once you take that shift, now you find the words, you find the tonality, you find the way to ninja it in there and people will accept it. So yeah, that's a great question.
It falls back on us being better as well. Like ultimately, there's people who you can be content with your life, but I feel like there's always areas we can improve in things that you mentioned, communication, whether it is how we move our body, the way that we use language, the words that we use can always be better. It can help.
Yeah.
And dude, you slapped me in the face a moment ago with thinking about that. I'm just passing responsibility. I'm like, no, that's their problem to deal with change. But it's like, no, ultimately I just got to learn to communicate better. And that for me now, I'm like, what a shit bloke I've been.
Isn't that crazy? I know, man. It's like, man, it's crazy because once you become aware of it, it's very hard to turn off, and you hear it in people's language all the time, and it's just like red flags, red flag, red flag. And I'll catch myself too, like, if I'm somebody on my team, right, maybe I'm getting a little frustrated and I go, man, so and so just frustrates me, like, da. That is at the effect. I'm saying this person is causing me to feel frustrated. No, I'm allowing them to frustrate me, because if I take responsibility, they could do everything they want, and I could just sit there and just like a monk and just, no, fine. I'm not going to get emotionally involved. So it's everything, right? And that's the foundation. Look, I'm very powerful what I do, and I make no ifs, ands, buts about that. I'm very, very good. Even though I'm very good at what I do, if people can't understand that basic concept, nothing I do will work. It won't work. I could hypnotize you to the end of time. I could do it. We could work together every single day, and nothing will sit until you go, everything is my responsibility. It's my fault. I'm the creator of my reality. It won't work. So once people make that shift, that principle in and of itself, you want to know how deep this goes? So this gets into esoteric knowledge, and this gets into things that people just won't believe. Going back to what we said before, right? And I'll explain it this way. Everything in our lives is an unconscious projection of something that's going on. And I'll tell you something so that you can understand how real and radical this truly is, because it's we've talked at the surface. Let's go deeper. So I had a client one day, and she came to me, super successful businesswoman. She owns a couple companies, the whole thing, military background, very just like hard charging, get it done, right? And she came to me to work on some business stuff, whatever. We go through our first session. She feels amazing. Well, the next week on our second session, hours before our call, she got into a car accident. Now, for me, that's a giant blaring alarm. That is a huge red flag that something is going on within this person's mind that we need to address. Now, it's a car accident. Somebody hit her, okay? Now, so she couldn't make the call, obviously, whatever. So the next week, we book our session. Hours before, she goes, Dom, I have a killer headache. My back is in so much pain, and I have brain fog. I can't make the call. So I'm like, okay. So next session, same thing. Finally, the third time, I said, no, I'm putting my foot down. We're doing this today, because I know what's about to happen. She doesn't yet, but I know. So we jump on the call, and she's just miserable. She told me her headache was like a 12 out of 10. Her back is like an 8 out of 10. And she's had brain fog for a few weeks, like her short-term memory. She's, forgetting things. She's all over the place. So I explained to her the concept of cause and effect. And I said, now, again, this is going to sound crazy, but I said, you unconsciously created this car accident in your life for one reason or another. And she resisted the hell out of it. No way. Like, that doesn't make sense. And I didn't do this. And it was a car accident. The guy hit me. I said, okay. I said, for the next 45 minutes, just humor me. Just go along. Whether you believe it or not, let's just pretend like what I'm saying is real. Can we do that? Is that cool? And she said, okay. I said, let's just pretend like you did. Okay, cool. So we put her in hypnosis. We go through our little, what we call breakthrough process. And, we start talking, and she realizes, and she's closed her eyes, and she's like, Dom, I'm just so tired. And, I take care of everybody. I take care of my parents. I take care of my brother. I have a business partner who's lazy, and everything always comes back on me. And she goes, for once in my life, I just want somebody to take care of me. I'm just tired of taking care of other people. And we go through the rest of, a couple minutes, and she opens her eyes. And she's like, oh my God, it makes so much sense. I said, I know. And I go, by the way, how's your head feel? She's like, you got a headache still? She's like, no, it's gone. like, you sure? You're not just telling me that, are you? She's like, no, it's gone. I said, how's your back feel? And she's like, shit, that's gone too. I said, how about the brain fog? And she's kind of like looking around. It's like, yeah, I can think clearly now. So the reason I share that is because, again, at a deep, she's like basically inside begging, like, give me a break. Her subconscious, like, yo, we need to chill. We're working we're doing too much. And that gave her because again, she's hard charging. I'm not taking a break. I'm not. So her mind is like, all right, if you don't want to do it, we're going to make you do it. And after it happened, the reason she was having all this pain and stuff is because she wasn't identifying what was going on in her subconscious. Once we identify just like the guy earlier with the headache, he was creating the pain and because of the family and everything. Once we identify it, boom, it goes away. So when I say everything is our fault, everything is an unconscious projection, I literally mean everything. So again, people are going to believe it or not, it is what it is. And look, sometimes in this moment when somebody hears it, like you said, that's bullshit. A month, 6 months, a year, maybe 10 years, I don't know. Something will happen and they'll remember this conversation and it'll be that like little in their lives are like, damn, okay, I get it. I understand what he meant, you know?
One thing I love that you did then, which reminded me of something to people who have a lot of resistance, was where you mentioned just humor me. Like, let's just pretend that this were to be a different outcome. And it sort of breaks that barrier of being like, Dom, you're full of shit, mate. This is not how it is. I'm not accepting responsibility. And it's like, well, let's just play with it. Let's role play here.
Yeah.
That just it reminded me of when Luke, the guy who took me through it, I was that guy. And he's like, let's just pretend. I was like, whatever. And when I let go and pretended, within however long, I was like, I'm in this. I get it now. And I can see a better outcome for myself. So I do accept responsibility for that. And when you mentioned that, then I was like, oh, that's a key thing that I hope a lot of people picked up on, was just that languaging there.
Well, and that is an actual hypnotic language pattern, believe it or not. So what happens is we have our conscious mind and we have our subconscious mind. Our conscious mind is our logical mind, right? That's where our ration and our reason, that's the part of if the people who are listening to this are going, oh, this is bullshit. This doesn't make sense. That's not possible. That's their conscious mind is like arguing with them, right? Now, our subconscious mind is our creative mind. It's our intuitive mind. It's where we use our imagination to create things in our lives. Well, when we hear information, what happens is it goes through the conscious mind, and then we are at a subconscious level trying to decide whether or not we believe it or we want to accept it or whatever. Now, when you use the word pretend, it bypasses the conscious mind and goes straight into the subconscious mind. So now your mind's not having to figure out whether or not it's real or not, because you're just giving it permission to just pretend. And so for those of you out there, let's say, for example, somebody wants to be more confident, or they want to be a better speaker, a better salesperson, a better business person, more attractive or whatever. If they're having trouble and they're like forcing it, if they literally just go, let me just pretend. Let me just imagine as if I'm the most confident person in the world. Let me just imagine as if I know exactly what to say. Let me imagine as if pretend like I'm confident. And when we allow ourselves to just pretend, it's just make believe, it's not real, that allows us to embody whatever it is we want to embody. So that is done purposely, right? Pretend, imagine, act as if, and people are able to bypass that part of their brain.
So why, with the communication, I'd love to talk more about, well, actually, before we'll put that on the shelf, we'll come back to communication. Mm-hmm. With hypnosis and the process of it, you mentioned earlier where it's just like sleep. I know there's going to be a lot of people I've been to shows where you do hypnosis more as a show than an actual, I guess, modality to help people achieve better things. What does the process look like in regards to that? Like, how do you get people into a hypnotic state?
Yeah. Well, number one, they have to want to be hypnotized. So if somebody goes, you can't hypnotize me. Nope, that won't work on me. All right, cool. I don't care. Look, I don't give my gifts away for free, and I don't give them to people who don't want them. So cool. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? If you don't want to experience it, fine. So number one is being open to suggestion, being hypnotizable. One of the misconceptions, and Hollywood has done a great job at doing this, or I guess a bad job, is they make it seem like it's mind control. They make it seem like you can get anybody to do anything without their permission. And I can just make you go kill somebody or rob a bank. And that's just not the case. If that were the case, it would be a lot more prevalent than that never happens. No, and as a matter of fact, in the United States, there's a law that nobody can use that as an excuse as to why they committed a crime. There was a guy back in like the 70s or something who tried to say that somebody hypnotized him to commit a crime. But think about that. I could just go commit a crime. Oh man, this guy hypnotized me to do it, So in hypnosis, you're not going to do anything that you otherwise wouldn't do. What it is this is how I explain it to people. When you're sober, I don't drink, but like back when I used to drink, let's pretend you're sober and you go to like a dance club. You're not going to dance, right? You want to have a good time, but you're like kind of insecure, right? Like, this is weird, whatever. But you get a couple drinks in you and all of a sudden you open up and you start dancing and have a good time. That's what hypnosis does. It makes it to where when you're in an uncomfortable situation, you don't want to open up, but you do, but you're just afraid. It relaxes your mind to the point where you'll just open up, just like you do after a couple of drinks. Now, as far as like what we call rapid induction, where you grab somebody's hand and say, sleep, and they collapse or whatever, they're not actually sleeping. Okay. The reason why hypnotists use the word sleep is because people know what that means. When you think of, if I say sleep, you think close my eyes and just freaking get relaxed.
Yep.
Because we're not going to say close your eyes and relax and bend over, right? That's too long. So the word sleep, not only does it communicate what to do in one word, it also is a shock to the system, right? Suddenly you just hear, all right, and sleep. It's like, oh shit, okay. And people just go into that state rather than, all right, close your eyes, bend over, relax your body. No, so we use that word purposely. They're not going to sleep. They're just going into a trance. They're going into that hypnotic state, which is basically just taking them from their conscious normal awareness to just in that relaxed state where they can start tapping into their subconscious mind.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for clarifying that, because I think that's an important one for people. But in going back to the communication part, I guess we've touched on it, how you can almost guide people to identify limiting beliefs and guide people, with the people that you work with in businesses, help them earn more money or overcome roadblocks in their business. How do you do that with communication? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah. So as far as being an effective communicator with like sales and things like that?
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Okay, great. So there's a few things. Communicating, let's say, to a team of people, your salespeople, your managers, even just the people that do fulfillment in your business. What you want to do is you want to get them motivated, right? We want to be able to get them to take action and not just be those people that are like, all right, the boss is gone. All right, I'm just going to, play on Facebook or whatever. Like you want people to be bought into the mission. So one of the ways that you do that is called future pacing. So future pacing is when we create a future in somebody's mind, a compelling future that gets them excited, right? It gets them motivated. And, companies do this in the sense of like, hey, one day you're going to get a raise and you'll do this. And this is, and that's kind of the surface of it, but you can go deeper, right? So what you're doing when you're future pacing is you're to the person you're communicating with, you're using their wants, what their needs, what's in it for them, not what's in it for you. And you're building out a future in their mind, right? So you find out what's important to somebody and you can simply ask, what is important to you, right? And this could be with sales or anything. What do you want to get out of this? What do you want out of this job? What do you want out of this thing? And they'll say, oh, I want this, I want this, I want this, I want this. And essentially what you do is you log that in your mind. And anytime you want to motivate this person, you feed back to them the language that they use, and then you attach that to the future outcome that they want. So it's like, hey, look, man, when you do your job effectively and you do this and do this, this is going to allow you to start to have more freedom in your life and this and this and that. And then 6 months down the road, as you get better and you're building, and this is what you're going to end up creating. Now, this is a two-part thing here. Don't future pace people as a leader and a manager and, as a coach. Don't future pace people unless you're going to fulfill the thing you're future pacing, because that's just lying. So if you're going to future pace and get people to buy in into this big vision and, hey, well, I'm going to help you improve and level up and get a raise and make more money, whatever, make sure on your end you follow up. Because if you don't, it'll have the exact opposite effect where people will lose trust. They won't believe what you say, and it'll actually make them more demotivated than had you just not done it at all. So make sure when you're future pacing people, you're doing it. And here's the thing. I love future pacing my team. You know why? Because it makes me level up. I go, damn, I just told this person we're gonna build this out to 100 people. All right, here we go. Time to level up myself. So that's a very, very powerful tool. Another powerful tool that we often use, and when I don't say often, every time I hypnotize somebody, is doing something called pacing and leading. So pacing and leading is simply stating 3 things that are true, and you could do 4 things that are true. And then on the 4th or 5th thing, you interject or you suggest something that may not be true, but you want them to accept it as true. So I'll give you an example. As you're sitting there, listening to my voice, breathing it out of your lungs, wondering what I'm going to say next, you'll realize how everything I'm telling you right now is extremely powerful, don't you? Now, I just did a few things. I said 4 things that were true as you're sitting there listening to my voice, breathing in and out of your lungs, wondering what I'm going to say next. So your mind, and you're going like this. Your mind, yes, 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 yes. I said, you'll realize how powerful this is, don't you? Or won't you? Or whatever I said. So I said 4 things that are true. And the 5th thing isn't necessarily true. It's mostly an opinion. But because I put it in after 4 yeses, your mind readily accepted it. And the other thing I did is I went like this. So when I'm nodding my head, you're doing it right now. You want to naturally nod your head with me. And then what I did after that is I use what's called an arcing statement, which is essentially, hey, you realize how powerful this is, don't you? So I'm using a statement that the only answer is yes. So I'm just getting you all yesed in. You're like, yes, yes, yeah. Okay. Yes, this is so valuable. So I use this all the time, and not always pacing and leading, creating yes sets, nodding my head. When I speak to clients, when I speak to my team, I'm like, man, that's powerful, isn't it? Wow, that was amazing, wasn't it? And people are like, yeah. So you get people in this yes state, which makes you a more effective communicator.
And I suppose that's a tool as well that in the wrong hands, people can use it to manipulate. But obviously, as with everything, there's people who abuse things, which stuff that. And then there's using it for the benefit of getting more of what you want from your life. And that's where obviously using experts like yourself or people who genuinely have your best interest at hand, that's where it's important to find the credible people in that space as well.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Hypnosis is neither good or bad, right? Nothing is good or bad. I mean, I have this pen here. This pen can be used to write the greatest screenplay of all time or the greatest poetry of all time. I can also use it to stab somebody in their carotid artery and they'll die. So is the pen good or bad? You know what I mean? Yeah. The pen's neither good nor bad. It's the intention of the user. So hypnosis and all these things I'm telling you, it's not good, it's not bad. It's the intention of the person using it. Now, just like I mentioned earlier, if somebody's like, no, it won't work. This is going to work when you have rapport, when you have trust and people like you and they, that's when this stuff is going to work. But if somebody just try to go to you random off the street and they're like, people can resist it. Now, I used to have like a hang up or feel like that, like, oh, am I manipulating people, getting them to do things that they might not want to do? No, look, if somebody's on a sales call with you or in a business meeting or whatever, they're there because they want to solve a problem. And it is your obligation to use every tool in your tool belt to get them to commit. Yes, so you can make money, but more importantly, so that they can get a result. And if that's what it takes to get them, if whatever you provide is powerful, it changes people's lives, you believe in it, and maybe you don't provide like coaching or whatever, but if you truly believe that what you do is going to help somebody, you have an obligation to use every tool in your tool belt to help them move forward in the process. Imagine the client that got in the car accident. Her life is changed forever. She'll never look at the world the same. Or a client that starts listening to the sleep hypnosis, it blocks them out, and then we clear it and they can hear it again. Their paradigm has been shifted. Nothing is ever the same again because they have a different perspective. Now, if me or I have a team of people that do my initial calls and things like that. If they don't get that person to buy in, we just harmed them, because now they're going to go their whole life not realizing that they're blocked, and they're going to be probably poor forever or doing just enough. Now, I'll say this. I have clients that are multimillionaires, people that are worth tens of millions of dollars, worth way more than I am. And guess what? They still have blocks as well. They'll start listening to the money magnetism and they're like, oh my God, I didn't think this was going to happen to me. So it's not just for people that have issues with money. It can be anybody. So make sure you're using this stuff ethically, because it's very, very powerful.
It's a good point. And even going back to that future pacing, whether you're making the tens of millions of dollars or you're living week to week, a lot of people are future pacing, and you may as well make it fucking fun and exciting and something that makes you want to leapfrog out of bed. Because if you're just going, got to get out of bed and pay the bills, got to pay, this, I'm saving for a holiday. It's like, that's not that motivating. That's not that exciting. No, but if you're going to do that anyway, you may as well go, all my bills are going to be covered easily. I'm also going to be able to buy this, or do the fun stuff, so that every morning when you're thinking about that, or you're listening to a hypnosis that you might create for people, Dom, or ones that you've already done, it's like, that makes you want to get out of bed. It changes the whole way that you view the world.
Right. Well, and here's the thing, and you hit it on the head. I was just telling this to clients the other day. Somebody asked me, how do you motivate your team? And I told them future pacing. And I said, look, imagine you're going through the jungle, and you're just going through the jungle. You're dodging freaking snakes and insects and tigers and wild pigs, quicksand, right? And you're just going through, no direction. Now imagine you're going through that same jungle, but somebody says, hey man, 20 miles that way, there's a pile of gold, and we just got to get there. Guess what? The bugs, the snakes, the wild pigs, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal anymore, and you're able to handle it because there's light at the end of the tunnel. But most people are going through their life in the jungle, and there is no pot of gold, not because there isn't one. It's because they're not putting it in their future, starting to visualize what that outcome is. So it's exactly what you said. When you start future pacing, you wake up out of bed and suddenly you have energy. You're excited. You're like, I don't care if I have to drive an hour and a half in traffic to work. That's fine. I'm going to use this for personal development. I don't care if I got to work all day, because I'm going to use this to fund my future dream. So it's such a powerful tool that we must do on a daily basis.
Dom, you've been incredible. You've answered so many questions that I know a lot of people have. Even for myself, it's got me excited about continuing on the path to the life that I want to live. You mentioned the app. You also mentioned you've got a team of an incredible team that can help people future pace and do all of these sorts of things. Where can people find you? Where can they find the app? What's the app called? So they can sort of start making progress.
Yeah, great question. So the app is just Dom the Hypnotist. It's in just whatever app store. I can give you links for people that are on Google and Apple. Also, for people who are like, hey, that sounds good, I need some one-on-one help, either whether it's with me or someone on my team, I'll give you a link as well where people can book a complimentary consultation. And in our complimentary consultation, we figure out what's going on in the subconscious, what's blocking you, and what we need to do to get to the next level. You can also follow me on Instagram, YouTube, Dom the Hypnotist. On Instagram is just dom.the.hypnotist. And, shoot me a follow, shoot me a message. Happy to connect with you guys. And I mentioned earlier, for those of you who want to upgrade the membership, it's a $44 a month membership. And what they can do, they get the money magnetism program. They also get to work live with one of my hypnotherapists on a weekly basis, where they actually help people in a Q&A kind of group setting work through those money blocks. so that they don't have to just kind of go along and do it themselves. So that's an option that they can do as well.
Yeah, and I'll go back to, for anyone who's listening, on 44 a month. For me, I remember when I had to first started my journey, and it was $25 for an investment in myself, and I was like, that's the difference between getting a carton of beer this weekend or doing whatever it was. And I didn't really understand it, but then when I heard the saying, it's obviously you invest in yourself, you'll have those skills for a lifetime. The $44, for example, you'll make that back tenfold. I promise you, with any investment. And that's not me selling it. I've not done your programs, Don, but I've done similar things. And it's like, it will change your life. And if you're experiencing roadblocks or you want to play a bigger game, then I just try it, man. That's the simplest way to look at it.
Literally, you have nothing to lose. And what we do as well is every dollar that they have in the membership, they can apply it in the future towards coming to our live event or virtual event, working with hypnotherapists. So you literally can't lose, like, even if you don't use the app. Oh, and then also I go on once a month, the first Monday of every month, and I hypnotize everybody live to build their confidence, increase their motivation, increase their wantingness. So, that in and of itself is worth, believe me, it's worth. The reason why I actually started that, we used to sell the money magnetism program for $2,000. And the reason why I started is because we would just get so many people that would come to us and they just didn't have the money. And look, 4 years ago, I was broke. I was in debt. I didn't even have credit cards. There was maxed out. And, when I purchased my first hypnosis course, it was like a $3,500 course. This guy calls me and we're talking or whatever. I'm like, $3,500? Holy shit, dude. I'm like, I got like $1,700 in my bank account. I have no credit cards. My credit's shit. I can't get a credit card. And really, I didn't even have $1,700 because $700 was due for rent in like 5 days. So he's like, all right, put like $1,000 down. I'm like, bro, you don't understand. If I pay you $1,000, I won't have gas money to go. Like, I'm not joking. So I paid him $900. I kept the 100, and I'm like, all right, I'll wait till next Friday when I get paid. $100 will get me through the week. Luckily, I had food, at home. But I did it, and I made payments, and that was the best decision. Other than my daughter, that was the best decision I ever made in my life, truly, because now I'm here. And so we purposely and intentionally made the money magnetism program so affordable that I saw this meme today. It said a crackhead never asked, like, it never says, I'm not going to have the money to smoke crack. Like, the crackhead finds the money, right? So anyways, that's
very true. If you want it bad enough, you'll make a way to get it done.
But yeah, man, thanks for having me. It's been great talking with you, and look forward to doing this again in the future.
Sounds good. Dom the Hypnotist, everyone.